Hey, thank you for joining the Maxwell Leadership Podcast. Our podcast is committed to you. It's committed to add value to you as a leader so you'll multiply value to others. If you're wondering what a team player looks like, if you're trying to figure out the qualities of what a great team player would look like today, this podcast, this episode is for you. Today, John Maxwell is going to share a lesson on the 4 qualities of a team player. And after this lesson, I'm excited because again today, I'm joined by Chris Robinson. We're going to give you a few practical ways that you can apply what you've learned to both your life and your leadership. If you'd like to watch this episode and check out Chris and our fun time in the studio, you can go to YouTube. You can also download the free bonus resource for this episode by going to maxwellpodcast.com/team player. Can't wait for the episode. I can't wait for you to be impacted. Here is John Maxwell.
I'm going to pick out 3 or 4 qualities of a team player and just sit down with you and talk to you about them. And because you are leaders and you are always working with a team and developing a team, I think this will be very helpful. So let's look at these qualities for a moment. They're not in any particular order. There were a few that just kind of stuck out a little bit, so I want to just share them with you. So if you have your notes, and let's get going. Quality number 1, enlarging. I'm talking about a team player that can enlarge the other team members. And behind that quality, I have the phrase, adding value to teammates is invaluable. My desire isn't to compete with people, it's to complete people. And a team player that completes people is an enlarging type of a team player. Let me say this. It's the kind of person that when they're on your team, you know they make you better than you really are. There's kind of a sense like, I think I'm good, but when I'm with him or when I'm with her, I'm better with them than without them. Now, here's what I know. That enlarging feeling has to be prominent in a team, and here's why. It's the only reason for a team to come together. The only reason to bring people together and have a team is because somehow you can get this enlarging synergy out of it and out from them until everybody begins to be very conscious of the fact that they are better because of the players around them than they are on their own. And the question for all of us is this: do we not know some people, maybe on the team, hopefully not, but on the team, aren't there some people that they have the ability to make you feel smaller? They have the ability to just, when you're around them, they whittle you away. They just reduce you. In fact, I've learned in life, there are some people that are subtractors and there are some people that are multipliers. There are some people that if you put them on the team, they'll just suck air and energy out of everybody. You know, you can see them coming down the hallway and you start to get sick. I mean, you just feel it coming. Well, they reduce you. Well, the opposite of that is the person that enlarges you. That when you see them coming, there's almost a sense of anticipation because you know that they know how to make you better. So, to enlarge others, very simply, 3 things. Believe in others before they believe in you. Serve others before they serve you. Very simple. Add value to others before they add value to you. Now, you could see the common thread, could you not? All 3 things. Believing in others, what? Before they believe in you. Serving others, what? Before they serve you. Adding value to others, when? Before. You see, to add value to be an enlarger, here's a characteristic I want to say in closing before we go to the second quality of a team player. Very simple characteristic, but it's very true, of enlarging type people. They initiate. They have the ability to see potential in another person before they maybe even see potential within themselves. They have the ability to start action. They have the ability to start belief. They are initiators. They do these things before someone does it even unto them. Okay. Another quality of a great team player is commitment. The ability to commit themselves to a cause. And I put in your notes, there are no half-hearted champions. I think many people tend to associate commitment with their emotions. If they feel the right way, then they can follow through on their commitments. But true commitment doesn't work that way. It's not an emotion. It's a character quality that enables us to reach our goals. Human emotions go up and down all the time, but commitment has to be rock solid. If you want a solid team, whether it's a business, ball club, marriage, or volunteer organization, you must have team players who are solidly committed to the team. And there are some things every team member needs to know about being committed, and let me give them to you now. Number one, commitment is usually discovered in the midst of adversity. What I have found is that you never know the commitment of a team player until things go bad. Vince Lombardi said it best. It's in your notes. The harder you work, the harder it is to surrender. So I think commitment is usually discovered in the midst of adversity. Secondly, it does not depend on gifts and abilities. Let me talk about that for a moment. Commitment and talent, I have found, are unconnected. I have found great talented people who lack commitment. I found people who lack skills and talent and natural God-given ability who are tremendously committed. I have found that talent and commitment are totally unconnected. So commitment does not depend on gifts, does not depend on abilities. Thirdly, commitment comes as a result of choice, not conditions. In your notes, when it comes right down to it, commitment is always a matter of choices. I believe commitment comes as a result of choice, not conditions. And finally, number 4, commitment lasts when it is based on values. I'm often asked in leadership training, not only how to bring commitment out of team players, but I'm often asked how to sustain it with team players. What I have found is this, very simply. The only way to sustain commitment is to link it up with the personal values of an individual. If you do not link it up with the personal values of people, it will not sustain over a long period of time. It will not be sustained just because they join your company. It won't be sustained just because they happen to be a part of your division. It won't be sustained because, you ask them to have commitment for the next 10 years or you talk about loyalty. The only way to sustain commitment is to link it up to the personal values of a person. That's why I was talking about the fact that there were 5 things that I was looking for when I was trying to know and relate to them. And one of the things was their values, because I have to know their values as a leader, because it's out of that soil can we bring birth to the commitment level that needs to have happen. Once your commitment is based on your values, you have no problem sustaining it. But if it isn't based on your personal values, I find that commitment is difficult to have it sustained. Okay, let's go on. Quality number 3, collaborative. I believe great team players know how to collaborate together, because working together means winning together. Although cooperation is important, collaboration is more important. So let me give you the difference between cooperation, having a team that cooperates and having a team that collaborates. There's a difference, and it's a small difference, but it's an important difference. Cooperation is working together agreeably. Everybody sits down, they're agreeable. Collaboration is working together aggressively. And there's a real difference between those two. Haven't you known people that were just nice people on the team? And they were cooperative and they were agreeable and yeah, that'll be fine. Whatever you say, that'll work out good. That's not what kind of team player you want. You want one that will work together aggressively. In other words, they'll get on the action side. They'll get on the creative side. They'll begin to take responsibility for ideas and thoughts and for plans. And so collaboration just takes, and I think it just tweaks what you want out of a team player to a whole new level. So when you're developing a team that collaborates, they begin to be aggressive, not just agreeable, not just saying, oh, sure, whatever the team wants, be glad. You know me. I've got my position. I've got my place. Yeah, sure. No. They begin to collaborate. They begin to become aggressive. They begin to all of a sudden begin to understand they have to bring something to the table also. We've talked about 3 qualities. We've talked about the team member that enlarges others, adds value to them. We talked about the one who's committed. Now we've talked about the fact that team members, the good ones, they collaborate, they really work aggressively together. The last quality that I want to talk about today is discipline. Just the ability to be a disciplined person. And I put in there, where there's a will, there's a win. Discipline is doing what you really don't want to do, so you can do what you really want to do. what makes it hard? Think about it for a moment. Why do we have to be disciplined? What makes it hard is that in our own human nature, we don't want to do certain things. And so therefore, what happens is we have a tendency to be undisciplined in the areas that we don't care to do. Now, here's what I want you to see about this. And then I'll do a couple thoughts and we'll close. The secret of a person's success is discovered in their daily agenda. We make success way too complicated. That's another subject. I'm not going to get on that now. But we make it way too complicated. If I went around the room right now and just asked each one of you to define success, I promise you I'd get a dozen different definitions by the time I came to the end of the room. So it's hard to understand. It's hard to comprehend. It's hard to get our hands around. But beyond that, when we think of success, we think of someday, somewhere. We think of a destination, a position, a title, a salary, a promotion, a place, a person. It's none of those things. It's a journey. This is why discipline is so important for a team player. Because you see, the secret of your success is discovered in your daily agenda. What we do every day makes us what we become someday. And discipline is the key. 4 qualities of a team player. I need to have them. You want to have them. Let's go back and build those kind of teams in our organizations, and I think we'll all be better off.
Are you ready to elevate your leadership to new heights? Join the movement towards High Road Leadership with John C. Maxwell's latest book. In High Road Leadership, John explores the power of valuing all people, doing the right things for the right reasons, and placing others above personal agendas. Learn how to inspire positive change and bring people together in a world that divides. Order now and receive exclusive bonuses, including a keynote on High Road Leadership by John Maxwell himself and a sneak peek into 3 impactful chapters. Take the first step towards becoming a High Road leader. Visit highroadleadershipbook.com to order your copy today.
Hey, welcome back, Chris. You, my friend, I told you last week, it was so good to have you on here. Thanks for leaving sunny Florida and coming up here to Georgia. At least it's 95 degrees and you feel at home, man.
But it's still great. It's still great. That was the differentiator. When I became a part of Maxwell Leadership, as a team member, he gave me a couple different options. He said, Chris, I need you to come to Atlanta, or did you come to West Palm Beach, Florida? Now, every single time I came to Atlanta, it was gray, it was raining, or cold. And I landed here today, and I was like, it's gray again. Well, what's it in South Florida today? It's sunny again. So that was an IQ test.
Yeah, but after we got finished with all of our morning meetings, it was beautiful coming over here to the studio.
We'll see what it looks like on the way out.
Maybe I can still get him to Atlanta game. Hey, there's a standout statement as we look at this. Like I was saying, it was so good last week to talk to you. By the way, go back and listen to Selfishness or Significance last week. It was phenomenal. You were the poster child of that lesson, and it's almost like Jake looked at this lesson and went, got another poster child with the 4 qualities of a team player. And so I really am. We get to serve on the same team, been on the same team for 14 years, now officially working side by side together. There's this standout statement that the team provided to us, says commitment comes as a result of choice, not conditions. Right. And it's so funny because you and I now have worked together, like side by side, worked together for going on 5 years.
Yeah, correct.
We're close. And you know what's funny? The right team players, you never negotiate the conditions. Right. You just negotiate the ownership, the responsibility. Right. Yeah. And it's so funny, as we were sitting across the table from one another, the conversations most teammates have, I look at those teammates, because we work with companies around the world, and I feel sorry for them because they're not really teammates. They're workmates.
Right, sure.
And yet you get that teammate, that brotherhood, that one for all, like you see on a lot of football teams or soccer teams or baseball teams. And it's good to be able to do what we do, but it's good to be able to do it with the way that we serve and are able to celebrate with our other teammates, you know?
Right. Yeah, I love that. Love that. When we talk about, commitment, we'll hop down that one. I'll go back to enlargement here in just a second because we've got some incredible enlargers in our organization.
Yeah.
But when it comes to commitment, I think you've done a great job of helping not only model but foster that culture of commitment. I think that was evident last week when we were in a meeting and we had an outside consultant come in to continue to help us learn, grow, and develop. And, her first comment out of the gate was like, "This is interesting. I've never seen an entire team come in and begin to work before we started this meeting." And as we walked in there, every single person was on their computers working, getting stuff done and grinding. So what do you think you've done to really foster this culture of commitment? Because it's definitely here inside of Maxwell Leadership.
One is I think the best leadership technique of reproduction is modeling. Mm-hmm. You've got to model the behavior. We talk about rewarding, and yes, you need to reward behavior. We talk about incentive. Yes, absolutely, you got to incentivize. But when you model the behavior you want, you are more than 50% there. Okay. Because people either get uncomfortable and say, "Wow, that is too much commitment. I'm checking out on this."
Right.
And so it puts a division there to where they don't feel like that they can measure up. Or it puts this model to people that really do want to expand. Now, don't always think of work ethic as hours put in. It's when you're working those hours, there is an intentionality and a focus there that's really important. Where I get into trouble with commitment oftentimes, Chris, and I think this will relate to you because I know your work ethic. I think it will relate to a lot of our podcast listeners and viewers. It's when, as a leader, that I know I'm supposed to know more, see more, do more than anyone else. And when I am the most committed, the most passionate, the most diligent, whatever the most X is, and I expect the team to do the exact same thing. Yeah. I want them to be the best committed person they can be, but not to replicate me. And oftentimes I look at my work ethic and I want everybody else to measure up that. But what I'm really saying is, I don't want to be the leader. I want to just be one of the team. When I try to get everybody else to do it just like I do it, oftentimes the level of expectation is unrealistic for the people around you. I do want everybody to be their most committed person to what they're doing. No doubt about it. So that leads me to the second thing I've done. Mm-hmm. I interview for committed people. I can remember you and I sitting on the bench and one of an IMC in Orlando, and we're talking about the future, talking about navigating it. And I said, "Hey, man, I don't need you to move down here. Let me move down to West Palm Beach." We just talked about the sun and all that. And West Palm Beach made me want to defend my Atlanta weather there. But we talked about that. But Chris, the reason I said that to you was because I already knew your committed work ethic was not dependent on whether you were in Florida, St. Louis, or if you had moved to Atlanta. Right. You have a built-in mechanism that an office is not going to make you more committed. I also knew, in fact, an office will make you less committed, but that's another conversation for another day,
Chris. Whole nother one.
That's another conversation.
Hey, what do y'all do there all day?
The second thing that I knew is how incredibly committed you were to your family. Right, yeah. And if I would have said, "Hey, it's a prerequisite for you to come to Florida," and I would have violated a commitment you have to your family, I would have lost you before I ever knew that I had you on the team because I knew the commitment to the Florida. Right, yeah. You went back, you talked to Janae, you talked to your kids, and everybody went, "Let's go to Florida." Well, maybe not everybody. It took the teenagers, the older kids a little bit longer. But when you're dealing with a committed person and you have to find that in the interview process, it is hard to teach commitment, brother. Yeah. It is hard to teach podcast family people to know how to be committed. There's something within them. And when you can find that, and yours was building business, helping people, and making sure my family gets me. Right. Yeah. You made that very clear. You made it very clear in the interview process. And I went, "Ooh, I've got a committed person right here." Now I can take a committed person and I can inspire a greater clarity or a greater degree of commitment. But if there's no raw ingredients there, run. You'll be beating your head against the wall the whole time.
That's the truth. Let's dive back, go back just up a little bit when we talks about enlarging people. I love enlarging people. One of the things I do each year year is I evaluate my calendar. John teaches us that we want to be intentional about our time that we spend with people. And what I'll do is color code red, yellow, green. And I want to spend my time with greens. And really, greens are people where you feel larger, you feel encouraged, just when you walk away, you're like, yes, I want to go out and do something. Those are what I would consider enlargers. You got your yellows, nothing good happens, nothing bad happens. I don't pursue those relationships, but I don't block them. And then you got your reds, those people that just drain you every single time they come around. When they walk in the room, they suck out the air. That's what he was talking about. But we've got some great enlargers on our team. And the first two that came to mind were our executive partners, Kim and Lorna. As he was going through describing how they do that, they believe in us first. They serve us well. They add value to us. When I think about two enlargers, I think about those two incredible women that help us look better than we are, do more than we can do, and help us navigate through life. Talk to me a little bit about Kim and how she enlarges your life.
I love this. I love this, Chris. We did not talk about this beforehand, and you coming in and talk about enlargers. I'm going to talk about Kim, and I want you to give one or two things on Lorna too. This is such a great conversation, but let me say two things. I believe all of us need to try to look to enlarge someone else. Mm-hmm. When you're John Maxwell says this, and this just hit me when you said this. John Maxwell says if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Mm-hmm. I believe if you're the largest person, the largest personality in the room, you need to try to enlarge somebody bigger than you. Right. Don't get in a different room. Just find somebody in the room you're already in and make them bigger. Yeah. One of the things that I've committed my life to, 24 years, really 14 when I really signed up, is to enlarge John Maxwell. Right. Not enlarge Mark Cole. Man, I'm telling you, you have enlarged me when you made the team. And I believe enlarging is a discipline that every leader needs to do. I don't care if you are the senior leader, who are you enlarging? I think one of the ways that Kim does that, and I'm going to be interested to hear how you celebrate Lorna doing that for you. I think one of the ways that Kimberly does that for me is to make sure that she is called to, cares for, and is concerned with the same things I'm called to, the same things I care for, and the same challenges that concern me. So we have contextual leadership conversations all the time. And every time I have a contextual leadership with her about what I care about, what I'm concerned about, or what I'm called to, every time we pause and go, does that resonate? Are we there? Because you can enlarge somebody because you want something in return, or you can enlarge somebody because when you enlarge them, you become larger. Right. When Lorna and Kimberly enlarges me, guess what happens to them? Right. They get larger. Right. When I enlarge John Maxwell, I get larger. Right. And so I love that there's this connection around the calling, the care, and the concern piece. The second thing that I would say is there is a true servant's heart that has to be in someone that wants to enlarge others. John talked a little bit about that as he was sharing today. You believe, you serve, you value. I think that every person that is wanting to enlarge someone else has to take the posture of servant leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I believe that 100%. When I think about Lorna, who has come alongside me, literally during the interview process, I found a committed person. And you say, this is what type of interview was it? Well, it was a 90-day work for free interview. I knew she was committed. Well, how it began was she was already on my calls every single week. She was always affirming. She was always adding value to other members or giving directions that I was giving out to members. And I remember calling her on that day saying, hey, look, I may be looking at this opportunity. I can't pay you now, but can we try to see how this works out for 90 days? And if it does, I'll hire you. And, what I asked for was 90 days of working together for no pay. And she said, absolutely, yes. Wow. And what she did was during that time, and the one I say is that, this is a person that truly believes in me. Yeah. This woman believes in my speaking ability, believes in my ability to lead people, believes in my leadership ability. So I see that there. But then in the service, I mean, I can stop the podcast right now and call her. She will pick up the phone and say, what do you need? And, she'll get things done. It does not matter, time of day, whether it's midnight, whether it's 6 a.m, she's going to pick up instantly to add value and to serve with me. So, I mean, very fortunate to have a person like Lorna around. Very fortunate to have Kim around to be a model for her as well, too. And I mean, man, we just got some great teammates.
Kimberly, if you're listening, I'm coming to you because I need 90 days free, 90 days without pay. Okay. Did any other executives pick up on that? And I can get 90 days payback right here.
I don't recommend that model for everybody out there.
Hey, podcast listeners. Many of you listening right now would probably love the autonomy that comes with owning your own business or becoming a coach that helps other businesses succeed. Well, we have a phenomenal strategy where you are 100% in control of your own business, earning income on your own terms, and have access to the people, tools, and resources you need to build a thriving leadership development business. When you become a Maxwell Leadership Certified team member, you join a global community of entrepreneurs led by our expert team of mentors and faculty, including John C. Maxwell. You'll also get one of the top leadership certifications in the world next to your name, giving you the boost you need to get started. Visit us online at maxwellleadership.com/join the team to find out more.
The last 2 weeks, you've asked great questions. I want to ask you a question. You're an entrepreneur at heart. You've worked for big companies. You've ran big sales companies. One of my greatest concerns, not because I didn't think you can do it. There's no doubt in my mind that you can lead in any environment. One of my concerns, though, is an entrepreneur-spirited person, somebody that really can go create something out of nothing, coming into this stoic, bureaucracy-laden environment to collaborate. Talk to me. Don't talk to me. Talk to our listeners that are entrepreneurs, but they find themselves in a less than entrepreneur environment on how an entrepreneur can collaborate around with people around them.
Yeah, I mean, that's an outstanding question. I mean, and it's no easy task because, I was successfully unemployed, for over a decade. And, even when you came to me and said, hey, we've got these offices here, and I literally asked you, well, what are you guys doing there all day long? Because I hadn't worked in an office, in a decade. And so there is some complexity to an entrepreneur that becomes an intrapreneur. Yeah. There's a shift. An entrepreneur being an entrepreneur that works inside of an organization. But for me, if we go back to last week's lesson, it was really the motive. And so what I've been able to do is my motive is to help extend John's legacy. My motive is beyond what I can do on my own. And so that's the driving factor that allowed for me to be able to put myself in a position to sit through the bureaucracy, to sit through the meetings, to sit through the fluff things where I'm going, this is what we can do to get it done, and simplify things. And so I think it's the motive is the most important thing is, hey, are you doing this for a bigger purpose? And then I think it goes back to selfishness. At the end of the day, I've had to put self down and say, okay, I can't run it this way. I can't control it this way. Or, I've got to play along with this system. And so having enough maturity to be able to say, hey, I'm going for the greater good. And despite what it's going to take to get there, this is what I know is better overall for the picture. So it allows me to enlarge John's content, it allows me to enlarge others. And so, has it been an easy space to be in as an entrepreneur? No, but I know it's definitely worth it because of the impact that we're making. I mean, I watched a video the other day where it was me in a promo, and it was like, Chris Robinson, leader of 52,000 coaches worldwide. And I was like, Whoa, wait a minute.
Wait, I need to get nervous.
I was like, wow, 52. Yeah, that's right. But on my own, what can I coach? 30, 40 on my own. If I'm doing one-on-ones or if I'm doing groups, maybe it'd be hundreds. But, being a part of this organization has allowed for me to have a greater reach and greater impact. And that's much more important than sticking to an identity as an entrepreneur.
Wow. Yeah. All right. So stay with me on this. We're going to finish up right here because we're on to something that's helping a lot of podcast listeners. Yeah. All right, so I got that. It's a mindset, it's a motive,
Right, yeah.
and it's even a calling. In our language. For others, it's a
sure.
purpose, it's a passion, but in our language, it's a calling. So I got that, and that's what helps you.
Yeah.
Now, we've got a lot of leaders out here
Mm-hmm.
that are trying to catch that entrepreneur spirit, because there's nothing like having an entrepreneur thinking person on the team as a corporate leader. I promise you. I love it. At the same time, not only have you had to work on your mindset, your motive, your calling,
Right.
what is it that I could do? I'm not even saying I've done this well, but what does a leader do when he or she really needs an entrepreneur spirited person on the team, and yet there is a collaboration that needs to happen with the rest of the team? What's the best way to get the best out of people like that?
Yeah, well, honestly, you got to get them around other entrepreneurs. I mean, honestly, and I think about that. That happened for us here recently.
You made that point in a leadership team.
Yeah, it happened here recently where I was with other entrepreneurs in the industry that are building business as well too, and it was easy for me to sit through that meeting all day long because we're not talking about rigid formats. We're talking about ideas and concepts that were completely open, going, yeah, it could be this way, it could be that way, it could go this way. I mean, so it's that exploratory space. And so to have those other thinkers around, it's phenomenal. But when you're inside of a room with people that just want to stick to a plan, or they're not going to speak up because, they don't want to be outcast, that makes it difficult of an environment to be in. So
here's what I'm going to get. This is so good. I'm so glad we struck gold right here. I will tell you that Chris and I have worked effectively for 4 years. I'm talking about in the last 12 months rolling, we've added over the world, not just in the U.S., but over the world, we've added another 5,500 coaches. We started this thinking, what if we get 3,000 in 5 years?
Right.
We added 5,500 in 1 year, the last rolling 12 months. Here's what I will tell you. I think there have been seasons in you as an entrepreneur spirit that your heart, meaning your motive and your calling, kept you engaged and on the team. And whereas now I'm watching you come back from meetings like that, and I'm seeing this light and this glow. Listeners, leaders that are listening to us, watching us today, you've got that entrepreneur spirit person on your team. You need them. You can't do what you've got to do without that. The builder, the creator, the relator that relationship is. You got to find environments to put them in that'll bring out the best in them.
Absolutely.
Would you add anything else to that?
No, that's it. I mean, it's the environment. It's the environment. And so you got to realize, hey, do I have an environment that sparks them, or do I not have an environment that sparks them? And what do I need to do? What environments do I need to get them in? Environment is critical for growth for any type of individual. So whether it's a non-entrepreneurial person, what type of environment does the analyst thrive in? What type of environment does the engineer, the accountant thrive in? But you have to find each person's environment where they thrive and get them there.
Yeah. Hey, I want to, the thing that John really put John on the map, probably his most entrepreneur thing that he did, was the 21 Laws of Leadership. For those of you watching, I'm holding the book up. Many of you have gotten it. About 4 million of you more has gotten this book. This book is what caused John to say, I'm going to change professions. I'm going to go build a training business. I'm going to go become a globally sought after leadership speaker. I'm going to become a growth guru. It was this book. And I want you to have it. If you're the entrepreneur that is sitting there underappreciated, or you're the leader that's trying to attract and keep entrepreneur-minded people on your team, the 21 Laws of Leadership will give you common language. It'll help you become better. And so I want you to go to our show notes, because I've put in there a way to get the online course that's literally typically over $1,000, and you can get it for less than $200 as you have just listened to the podcast. So go to the show notes. You'll be able to get that. Hey, this helpful quote from Henry Ford is kind of the way I wanted to close it today. And then I'll talk about Albert, who listens to the podcast in Ghana. Henry Ford says, if everyone is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself. That's what I want for you. That's what we've been talking about is the 4 qualities of a team player. And we want that for you. Chris wants that for you. We've given our life to create that with you. And so be a part of that. Go get that 21 Laws online course. And then Albert, listening to us from Ghana. Come on, man. We're so glad you're out there. He says, such a powerful discussion recently between Mark and Tracy on the platitudes and attitudes. I remember that podcast, Albert. It was a good one. Go listen to that. It's in the show notes if you haven't heard it yet. Thanks, everyone. Hey, bring powerful, positive change to the world this week because everyone around you deserves to be led well.